New City, hope you all are doing well. Wanted to take a second to give you an update on a really important season in the life of our church. It's kind of this time of year where the pastors of your church take time to pray, time to evaluate and consider where God wants to move us in the coming months and year. And in order to understand where we're going, we've got to look back a little bit on where we've been. 2 years ago, we planted this church in Old Town Manassas with a desire to be a diverse community that proclaims the gospel and makes disciples for the glory of God and the renewal of our city. And as a church, we have been laboring hard to see that happen. Over the past year, we put a lot of thought into some strategic steps that we felt like would allow more lost people to encounter the gospel, would allow more growth in our members, and would even allow opportunities for mercy in our city. And so some of those strategic steps included things like launching a number of new community groups scattered throughout neighborhoods in Northern Virginia. We've moved towards seeing a church planted. We've launched recovery ministry. We've even launched a mercy ministry where we are closely connected to a neighborhood that faces some challenges in our cities. So in a lot of ways, while we've seen some incredible fruit, we also look at our people and we see a bit of weariness. If we were to use the analogy of a tree, which the Bible frequently does to describe God's people, we are as a church kind of like a tree with a lot of branches, whose leaves are maybe becoming a little bit dry. This tree's maybe a little bit shaky in the wind, and might run the risk of even bearing some unhealthy fruit. It's in the midst of that I want you to hear these words from Jeremiah 17, chapter 8, that describes where we want to see our people go over the next year. He is like a tree planted by water that sends out its roots by the stream. So in the midst of feeling weary, what we don't need to do is add new ministries and new programs. But we also don't need to walk into the temptation of sitting back and doing nothing. When a tree is feeling lack, this passage just said, it sends its roots down deeper into the stream. This is what we need to do as a church over the next year. So to summarize where we believe that God is moving us as a people over the next year, we would use this small phrase: deep roots. We want to see our church establish deep roots in a few specific areas. We first want to have deep roots with our God. To summarize what that might look like, we want to see our people abiding with Him before they seek to accomplish something. We want deep roots with God by abiding before we accomplish in our personal lives, in our community, in our corporate gatherings. What would it look like for us if we were to embody this abiding before we seek to accomplish something with God? Well, I think our people would be very intentional with their schedules and their commitments to put abiding with God first. I think in our smaller gatherings, our community groups, we would see our people communing with the Lord in spontaneous and then even scheduled times of Spirit-filled prayer. Our worship services, especially as we move to having 2 services, won't feel like an event on the schedule or a job to get done, but a desired encounter with the living God. As we establish deep roots with our God, we also want to have deep roots with our people. We want to share our lives, speak His words, and really love the diversity that He's given us. As we, over the next year, seek to go deeper with one another, what might that look like in our midst? Well, a summary of that might look like our people are a people who know and are known by others within a culture of vulnerability and trust. We would proactively seek to bear each other's burdens while offering words of life and grace. Out of a love for God-honoring, God-glorifying diversity, we would express hospitality to people, especially who are different from ourselves. And we would love to see an increased Christ-like posture towards the young children who are in our midst. As we seek to go deeper with God and establish deep roots with our people, we also want to see deep roots with our city. In fact, it's not even possible to go deeper with God without being burdened with the things that He's burdened with. And so in an effort to go deeper with our city, we want to embody biblical hospitality and mercy. I want to invite you to imagine with me what it would look like over the next year to continue to see lost people in our neighborhoods welcomed in and experiencing the gospel through our community groups, and then even a step further around our dinner tables. We want to see a love and a care for and a moving towards those in our city who are often overlooked. And we specifically want to see a deeper connection with the neighborhood of Georgetown South that we've begun to establish over the past year. So, in the midst of many of us feeling weary, having worked really hard to get our church to where we're at right now, we don't need to step back. We need to send our roots down deep. My invitation to you is to come and be a part of seeing this happen over the next year. Our prayer is that our church would be like a tree planted by water that sends out its roots by the stream.